The perfect beginning. The sun peeked through the lavender curtains of Alina's bedroom, casting a warm glow on the organized chaos within. Swatches of ivory lace and delicate silk draped over her bed, a half-packed suitcase sat on the floor, and a small mountain of wedding gifts threatened to topple over in the corner. Today was the day before her wedding, the day she had dreamed about since she was a little girl. Alina stood in front of the mirror, her hands trembling slightly as she held up her wedding veil, the delicate fabric cascading down her back. She had tried on this veil a dozen times, but today it felt different. It felt real. In just 24 hours, she would walk down the aisle and say, "I do," to the love of her life, Rayyan. Butterflies fluttered in her stomach, a mixture of excitement and nervous anticipation. "Alina, come downstairs! The decorators are here!" Her mother's voice echoed from the hallway. With a final glance in the mirror, Alina rushed down, her bare feet tapping against the wooden floor. The house was alive with laughter and chatter. Her father was in the living room, examining the floral arrangements with his usual meticulous eye. Her younger brother Daniel sat on the couch, scrolling through his phone, utterly uninterested in the whirlwind of wedding preparations around him. "Everything has to be perfect," Alina said, joining her mother near the entrance, where decorators were setting up elegant white and gold decor. "I still can't believe it's actually happening." Her best friend and maid of honor, Sarah, walked in, holding 2 coffee cups. "Oh, it's happening all right. And you, my dear, need to relax before you drive yourself crazy." She handed Alina a cup and grinned. "By this time tomorrow, you'll be Mrs. Alina Rayyan." Alina blushed. The thought of it sent shivers down her spine. Rayyan was everything she had ever wanted, kind, charming, and supportive. He had been her rock through every challenge, and now they were about to start their forever together. Just then, her phone buzzed. A message from Rayyan. "Rayyan, counting down the hours until I see you. Can't wait to call you my wife." Alina smiled, her heart swelling. She quickly typed back, "Alina, me too. Tomorrow can't come fast enough." The afternoon melted into evening, and the house buzzed with last-minute preparations. Guests arrived from out of town, laughter filled the air, and excitement reached its peak. Alina's mother adjusted her daughter's jewelry while the older women hummed wedding songs in the background. It was a picture-perfect prelude to what was supposed to be the happiest day of Alina's life. Yet, amidst the joy, a strange feeling lingered in her heart, a fleeting sense of unease. She pushed it aside, telling herself it was just wedding jitters. Little did she know, her dream wedding was about to turn into a nightmare. Red flags ignored. As the wedding day drew closer, Alina found herself floating in a surreal haze of excitement and exhaustion. Yet, in the midst of the celebrations, tiny ripples of unease began to disturb the picture-perfect surface of her happiness. Red flags she chose to ignore. The first sign came the night before the wedding. She had tried calling Rayyan, wanting to hear his voice one last time before they stepped into forever, but he didn't pick up, not once. She left him a message. "Alina, hey, just wanted to check in. Hope everything's okay. Can't wait to see you tomorrow." She stared at the screen, waiting for the familiar typing ... to appear. Nothing. Her heart fluttered with uncertainty. Rayyan was always responsive. He had never left her messages unread before. Maybe he was caught up in last-minute wedding preparations, or maybe something was wrong. Shaking the thought away, she forced a smile and rejoined the guests in the living room, where laughter and wedding songs drowned out her doubts. The second red flag came the next morning, when her best friend Sarah rushed into her room looking uneasy. "Alina," Sarah hesitated, clutching her phone. "I need to tell you something, but I don't want to stress you out." Alina frowned. "Sarah, just tell me." Sarah sighed. "I saw Rayyan last night, at a cafe. He wasn't alone." A cold shiver ran down Alina's spine. "What do you mean? Who was he with?" Sarah hesitated. "A woman. I don't know who she was, but they seemed close. They were talking in hushed tones, and he looked really tense." Alina swallowed the lump forming in her throat. "It could be nothing." Maybe she was a friend or... Alina, Sarah cut in gently. I just want you to be sure about this before you walk down that aisle. Alina's mind raced, but she forced a laugh. Rayyan loves me. If there was anything wrong, he'd tell me. She wanted to believe that, needed to believe that. The final red flag came just hours before the ceremony. As Alina sat in front of the mirror, her makeup artist adjusting her veil, her phone rang. It was an unknown number. Hesitant, she picked up. Hello? A woman's voice, sharp and urgent, came through the line. Alina, you don't know me, but you need to listen. Don't marry Rayyan. He's not who you think he is. Alina's breath caught in her throat. Who is this? You'll find out soon enough, the woman whispered before the line went dead. Alina's hands trembled, her heart pounded against her ribs. But she took a deep breath and shook her head. Number it was just cold feet, just nerves playing tricks on her. Rayyan loved her. He wouldn't betray her. Brushing away the growing doubt, she stood up, forcing a smile. It was time to get married. Little did she know, the nightmare was just beginning. Wedding day, chaos. The wedding day had arrived. The air buzzed with excitement. Guests dressed in their finest attire filled the grand venue, and soft music played in the background. Everything looked perfect, at least on the surface. Alina, adorned in her breathtaking white gown, stood in front of the mirror, taking deep breaths. The doubts from the night before still lingered, but she refused to let them ruin her big day. She convinced herself that everything would be fine. Rayyan loved her. They were about to start a new life together. Then the first disaster struck. Her mother burst into the room, her face pale. Alina, we have a problem. Alina turned sharply. What happened? The venue... Her mother hesitated. They say we were booked for tomorrow, not today. What? Alina's stomach twisted. That's impossible. We confirmed this date weeks ago. I know, Beta, but they're refusing to set up the main hall unless we show proof. Panic surged through her, but she tried to stay calm. Check with the wedding planner. The emails should be there. Her mother rushed out, leaving Alina to process the situation. The dream wedding she had meticulously planned was already unraveling. Before she could collect her thoughts, her bridesmaid Sarah ran into the room, breathless. Alina, I don't know how to tell you this, but the rings are missing. Alina's head snapped up. What do you mean, missing? They were in Rayyan's best man's bag last night, but now they're gone. We searched everywhere. Alina clenched her fists. This can't be happening. Still trying to maintain her composure, she took a deep breath. Okay, worst case, we borrow rings for the ceremony and sort this out later. Just find something. But the disasters didn't stop there. As Alina turned to adjust her dress, she heard a loud rip. The sound sent a shiver down her spine. No, 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 she whispered, twisting her body to look. A long tear had formed along the back of her gown. The room fell silent. Even Sarah, usually quick with a solution, was speechless. Alina felt tears prick her eyes. The venue was in chaos, the rings were missing, and now her dress, her dream dress, was ruined. A loud knock at the door startled them. One of Rayyan's relatives stood there looking flustered. Alina, have you seen Rayyan? No one can find him. The words hit her like a punch to the gut. Her breath caught in her throat. Rayyan was missing. This was no longer just wedding jitters. Something was terribly, terribly wrong. The mysterious disappearance. Alina's heartbeat pounded in her ears. What do you mean Rayyan is missing? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Rayyan's uncle shifted uncomfortably. We've been trying to reach him for the last hour. His phone is off, and no one has seen him since last night. Alina felt the ground sway beneath her. She turned to Sarah, who looked just as stunned. This has to be a mistake, Alina muttered. Maybe he just stepped out for some air, or she stopped mid-sentence, remembering the woman's chilling phone call from earlier. Don't marry Rayyan. He's not who you think he is. Her stomach churned. Was it connected? Her father stepped into the room, his expression tense. We need to figure this out before people start asking questions. Alina forced herself to breathe. She couldn't afford to panic. "Have you checked his house?" Rayyan's uncle nodded. "We sent someone. His car isn't there, and his neighbors haven't seen him all morning." A cold fear gripped her. Rayyan would never do this to her. Would he? Sarah grabbed Alina's hand. "Alina, we need to consider the possibility that he's not coming." "No." The word came out sharper than she intended. There has to be another explanation. Suddenly, a commotion erupted outside. Murmurs spread through the crowd as guests began whispering. The news was leaking. Alina's mother turned to her. "We can still cover this up for now. Maybe delay the ceremony and tell everyone it's a small emergency." But Alina barely heard her. Her hands were shaking as she reached for her phone. If Rayyan had any excuse, if this was just some last-minute emergency, she needed to hear it from him. She dialed his number, straight to voicemail. Then, almost on instinct, she scrolled through her call log and found the unknown number from earlier, the woman who had warned her. With trembling fingers, she pressed redial. The line rang once, twice, then someone answered. A deep silence. Then a voice. "I told you not to marry him." Alina's blood ran cold. "Who are you? Where is Rayyan?" The woman exhaled sharply. "Check his apartment. You'll find what you need there." The line went dead. Alina stood frozen, her heart hammering. Rayyan was gone, and someone who knew something, was trying to lead her to the truth. The dream wedding had officially turned into a nightmare. A shocking revelation. Alina's hands trembled as she stared at the darkened screen of her phone. The woman's cryptic words echoed in her mind. "Check his apartment. You'll find what you need there." Sarah placed a hand on her shoulder. "Alina, what is it? Who was that?" Alina turned to her, eyes wide with fear. "Someone called me this morning. She told me not to marry Rayyan. I think she knows why he disappeared." Sarah's face paled. "Are you saying he ran away on purpose?" "I don't know, but I need to find out." Ignoring the concerned whispers around her, Alina grabbed her car keys and rushed out of the venue, with Sarah and her brother Daniel following close behind. As they sped through the streets toward Rayyan's apartment, 1,000 questions swirled in her mind. Was he hurt? Hiding? Had something terrible happened to him? Or worse, had he been lying to her all along? When they arrived, the building's doorman recognized Alina immediately. "Ma'am, Mr. Rayyan left early this morning. He looked nervous." Her heart clenched. "Did he say anything?" The doorman hesitated. "No, but a woman came by last night. She was crying." Alina's stomach dropped. "Do you remember what she looked like?" "Tall, dark hair. She seemed upset. She stayed for about an hour, then left in a hurry." A sickening feeling settled over her. Was this the same woman who had called her? With shaking hands, she unlocked Rayyan's apartment door. The moment she stepped inside, she knew something was wrong. The place was a mess, drawers left open, papers scattered across the floor. It looked like someone had either left in a hurry or had been searching for something. Then she saw it. A stack of documents sat on the coffee table, next to an open laptop. Alina stepped closer, her eyes scanning the papers. Bank statements, large withdrawals, transfers to an unknown account. And then she saw her name. Her breath caught in her throat. Her personal details were listed on several documents, alongside what appeared to be a loan application, one she had never signed. Her hands flew to her mouth. "Oh my God." Sarah picked up another paper, her face darkening. "Alina, these are fraudulent accounts. Someone's been using your name to take out money." Daniel cursed under his breath. "He was scamming you." Alina's legs felt weak. She sank onto the couch, her mind reeling. Rayyan had never loved her. He had been planning this from the start. The charming, loving man she thought she knew had been stealing from her, using her. And then he disappeared before he could get caught. Tears burned her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. Anger slowly replaced the heartbreak. She had been blindsided, betrayed in the worst way. And now She needed to find him. The wedding was over, but this wasn't the end. This was just the beginning of the truth. The betrayal unfolds. Alina sat frozen on Rayyan's couch, the weight of the betrayal pressing down on her like a crushing force. The man she had loved, the man she had been ready to marry, had been using her all along. The financial documents in front of her were undeniable proof: loans in her name, forged signatures, and thousands of dollars transferred to an unknown account. But what shattered her more than anything was the realization that someone close to her had helped him. He couldn't have done this alone. Sarah, pacing beside her, clenched her fists. "We need to go to the police, Alina, right now." Alina barely heard her. Her mind was racing. Rayyan had access to some of her personal details, but not enough to pull off something this elaborate. The loans, the financial documents. It had to be someone who knew her really well. Someone who had access to her personal information. Someone she trusted. She looked up at her brother, Daniel, who stood near the doorway, scrolling through his phone. He had been acting distant all morning. Quiet, almost too calm. A strange thought crept into her mind. "Daniel," she said, her voice slow, careful. "How did you know these were fraudulent accounts?" He froze. His fingers tightened around his phone before he shoved it into his pocket. "What? I mean, it's obvious, right?" Alina stared at him, her heart pounding. Sarah picked up on it too. "Wait, how did you know, Daniel?" He let out a nervous chuckle. "Come on, guys. You really think I had anything to do with this?" Alina's stomach churned. "I don't want to think that. But you do have access to my personal documents. My ID, my bank details, and Rayyan, he never would have known half of these things on his own." Danielle's face hardened. "You're accusing me? Your own brother?" Sarah's voice was sharp. "Then explain how Rayyan pulled this off without help." For a moment, silence filled the apartment. Then Daniel scoffed, shaking his head. "Fine. You want the truth?" He crossed his arms, his expression cold. "Rayyan and I had a deal. He was supposed to take out the loans and disappear, and I'd get a cut of the money. But I didn't expect him to actually run off and leave me with nothing." Alina felt like she had been punched in the chest. "You worked with him?" He shrugged. "You were always the golden child, Alina. Mom and Dad gave you everything. I was just trying to get what I deserved." Tears burned her eyes, but anger quickly replaced them. "You betrayed me. You ruined my life for money?" Danielle's face twitched, but he didn't deny it. Sarah stepped forward, her voice shaking with fury. "You're disgusting. We're going to the police." But before they could move, Danielle smirked. "Go ahead, but you won't find Rayyan." Alina's blood ran cold. "Where is he?" Danielle's smirk widened. "Let's just say he's far away by now. And you're left picking up the pieces." Alina clenched her fists. She wouldn't let this end like this. She had been fooled once. Never again. The betrayal had unfolded. Now it was time for revenge. Emotional breakdown. The bride, heartbroken, struggles to process the nightmare unraveling. Alina stood in the middle of Rayyan's ruined apartment, her breath coming in shallow gasps. The walls seemed to close in around her, the weight of betrayal pressing down on her chest like an unbearable burden. Her own brother, the man she had loved. Both had schemed behind her back, tearing apart the life she had so carefully built. A broken sob escaped her lips. Sarah reached out. "Alina, sit down. Just breathe." But Alina shook her head, stepping back. "No." Her voice wavered. I can't. I don't know how to." She turned away, pressing her hands to her face. The dam inside her cracked, and the emotions she had fought so hard to hold in came crashing down. The betrayal, the humiliation, the loss. This wasn't just about the wedding. It wasn't just about Rayyan. It was about trust. And now, she had none left. Tears streamed down her face as she collapsed onto the couch, her body shaking with silent sobs. How could she have been so blind? How could she have loved someone so deeply, only to be used? Sarah knelt beside her, wrapping an arm around her. Alina, listen to me. This is not your fault. Alina let out a bitter laugh between her sobs. Isn't it? I ignored the signs. The late-night phone calls, the missing details, the warnings. I chose to believe Rayyan. I trusted Danielle. Her voice cracked as she wiped at her tears. And now I'm left with nothing. No fiancé, no wedding, no family to turn to. Sarah tightened her grip. You have me, and you still have yourself. Alina shook her head, staring at the scattered papers on the table. The evidence of Rayyan and Danielle's betrayal was right there, mocking her. The dream wedding, the perfect love story, the happily ever after. It was all a lie. A fresh wave of pain crashed over her, but this time something else burned beneath it. Something stronger. Anger. Number. She wasn't going to be the heartbroken bride forever. She wasn't going to let them get away with this. Through her tears, she clenched her fists. If Rayyan and Danielle thought they had won, they were wrong, because Alina was about to take back control, and this time, she wouldn't be fooled. The confrontation. Alina stood in front of the mirror, staring at her reflection. Her eyes were red and swollen from hours of crying, but there was something else now. A fire had ignited within her. The pain was still there, but it was tempered by the need for justice. She wasn't going to let Rayyan or Danielle destroy her life. Sarah stood beside her, watching her with concern. Alina, you don't have to do this. We can go to the police, report everything. They'll find Rayyan. Alina shook her head. I have to face him. I need answers. I need to hear it from him, why he did this to me. She took one last look at herself in the mirror before turning to Sarah. You can come with me if you want, but I need to do this alone. Sarah nodded, her eyes filled with worry but understanding. Alina left the apartment, the weight of her decision pressing heavily on her chest. The truth, however painful, needed to be exposed. She needed closure, their closure. It wasn't long before she reached Danielle's apartment. She rang the bell and waited, her heart pounding. When the door opened, Danielle stood there, looking smug and self-assured. What do you want, Alina? He asked, his tone flat. Her chest tightened with anger, but she kept her voice calm. I want answers. Danielle smirked. I thought you already had all the answers. Rayyan's gone, you're heartbroken. End of story. Alina took a deep breath, steadying herself. That's not enough. You owe me an explanation. He stepped aside, gesturing for her to enter. Fine, but don't say I didn't warn you. Alina stepped inside, glancing around at the sterile, neat apartment. She didn't feel the warmth or comfort she'd once imagined here. I trusted you, she began, her voice trembling with restrained fury. You, my own brother. You helped him. You helped Rayyan use me. You put me through this hell for money. Danielle's eyes hardened, but he didn't speak. He was silent for a long moment, as if considering whether to speak the truth or continue lying. Finally, he spoke. I didn't think you'd figure it out. Rayyan and I had a plan. He'd disappear, leave you heartbroken, and I'd get my cut. You were never meant to find out. You were never meant to get away with it, Alina snapped, her fists clenched at her sides. You thought you could ruin my life and walk away with no consequences? I'm not just a victim in this, Danielle. I'm your sister. Danielle's face twisted with contempt. Oh, please. Stop acting like I'm the only one to blame. You were so busy living in your perfect little world, you didn't even see the cracks forming. It was all a game to you. I just wanted a piece of the pie. Alina recoiled, her heart shattering all over again. You're pathetic. You destroyed everything for money. People do worse for less, Danielle replied coldly. You should have known better than to trust Rayyan. You were always the naive one. I wasn't the fool. The words struck Alina like a slap, but in that moment, the anger within her rose to a boiling point. Rayyan didn't just betray me, you both did. But I'm done being the fool. I'm done letting you think you can walk away from this unscathed. She pulled out her phone and dialed the police, her finger hovering over the screen. Daniel's eyes widened. "You're going to report me?" he hissed. "No," Alina said quietly. "I'm going to make sure everyone knows the truth. You and Rayyan have no place in my life anymore." Her finger pressed the call button, and as she did, she saw the panic flash across Daniel's face. But it was too late. The truth was coming out, and there was no way to stop it now. The aftermath. The wedding is canceled, and the bride faces the painful consequences. The echo of the police siren still lingered in Alina's ears as she walked out of Danielle's apartment, the weight of what had just unfolded heavy on her shoulders. The confrontation, the betrayal, it was all too much. The dream she had spent years building had crumbled in a matter of days. As the police took Danielle away for questioning, the full scope of the disaster hit her like a wave. The wedding was officially canceled. No one would have believed it could have happened this way, not after all the planning, not after the months of excitement. But it was over. Alina had tried to ignore the stares and whispers as she walked out of the apartment building, the weight of her family's disgrace hanging over her. How could she face everyone? Her parents, friends, and all those who had believed in the love story she had sold them. How could she explain that it wasn't just Rayyan's betrayal? It was Danielle's too. Once home, she collapsed onto the couch, her body exhausted from the emotional toll. Her phone buzzed nonstop with messages from concerned relatives, friends, and even strangers who had heard about the scandal. But Alina didn't have the energy to reply. She was numb, her mind swirling with questions, with regrets. Could she have seen the signs sooner? Could she have stopped it before everything spiraled out of control? Her mother sat beside her, her expression a mixture of guilt and sorrow. "Alina, I never imagined this. I don't know what to say." Alina turned her tear-filled eyes to her mother, her heart aching. "I don't know either, Mom. I thought I knew Rayyan. I thought I knew Danielle." Her mother wiped her eyes, taking her hand. "You didn't deserve this, my child. You deserved a life full of love and happiness, not this nightmare." "Maybe I was just too naive," Alina whispered, her voice breaking. "I wanted the fairy tale. I wanted the happy ending. I didn't see the truth when it was right in front of me." Her mother held her tighter. "This is not your fault. You're not to blame for their lies." The words felt empty. There was no comfort in hearing them, no reassurance. Alina had been blindsided by people she trusted, and no amount of sympathy could undo the damage. The wedding, once filled with hope and joy, had become a distant memory. The venue, the decorations, the invitations, everything had been canceled. The guests, who had been waiting eagerly to celebrate with her, were now left with nothing but the shock of what had unfolded. Alina couldn't bring herself to care about any of it, not in that moment. All she could think about was the fact that her family's reputation was forever tarnished, that her future was uncertain, and that her heart was shattered. In the days that followed, she withdrew from everyone. She didn't attend the police hearings about Danielle or Rayyan. She didn't return the calls from friends who still tried to comfort her. Instead, she focused on something that brought her some small sense of peace: solitude. It wasn't just about the wedding being ruined, it was the loss of trust, the sense of betrayal that had pierced her to her core. Her heart, once full of love for Rayyan, now felt empty. She spent long hours walking through the city, trying to find herself again, to understand how the person she had loved so deeply could turn into the very person who betrayed her. Rayyan was still out there somewhere, but she had no desire to find him. Her future felt uncertain, and yet, as the days turned into weeks, Alina began to realize something profound. This painful chapter, though heartbreaking, would not define her. She would rebuild, she would heal, and maybe, just maybe, one day, she would learn to trust again. But for now, she needed time to grieve, time to let go of the person she thought she knew, and time to reclaim her life. The wedding may have been canceled, but Alina's life was far from over. A new beginning. She finds the strength to move on, embracing self-love and a fresh start. The months after the wedding disaster were not easy for Alina, but they were necessary. At first, the thought of facing the world felt impossible. How could she step outside knowing the entire city had heard about her betrayal? How could she smile and pretend everything was okay? But slowly, the pain began to subside, replaced by something much more powerful: resilience. She started small, taking quiet walks through the park, letting the fresh air clear her mind. It was in those moments, surrounded by the rustling leaves and the distant sound of children laughing, that she realized something. She had been so focused on finding love from others that she had forgotten about the most important person, herself. Alina started to invest in herself. She returned to the activities she had put aside while planning her wedding: painting, reading, journaling. These were the things that once brought her peace, and slowly they helped her reconnect with who she was before all the chaos. One day, while browsing through a local art gallery, she met an artist who changed her perspective on life. His name was Rayyan. He was kind, genuine, and most importantly, he didn't see her as a victim. He saw her as a person with a future, someone who had the strength to create a life of her own, regardless of what had happened in the past. Their conversations started slowly, at first about art, then about life, love, and dreams. Rayyan had a way of making her feel heard without judgment. He encouraged her to embrace her pain, to let it be a part of her healing process rather than something to run from. Gradually, Alina began to heal. She no longer blamed herself for what had happened. She understood that Rayyan and Danielle's betrayal had nothing to do with her worth as a person. They had made their choices, but those choices did not define her. One evening, as she sat at a cafe with Rayyan, sipping coffee and talking about their hopes for the future, she realized just how far she had come. The shadows of the past no longer held her captive. "I never thought I'd feel this way again," she told him, her voice soft but steady. "I never thought I'd be able to trust or love again." Rayyan smiled warmly. "And yet, you've already started to love yourself again. That's the most important kind of love, Alina." She smiled back, the weight of his words sinking in. She had found strength in herself, in her ability to overcome, and in her capacity for self-love. It was a love that no one could take from her, no matter what. In time, Alina returned to her work, her friendships, and her passions with renewed vigor. The pain didn't vanish, but it no longer controlled her. She became someone new, not defined by the tragedy, but by her courage to face the future with hope. And when the day finally came, when she looked in the mirror and smiled at the woman staring back at her, Alina knew one thing for sure: the worst was over. Her journey wasn't finished. It had just begun.